And we're live. Welcome, everyone, to a very special podcast called Overcoming Imposter Syndrome podcast to mark today's special day, which is the second International Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day. And with me today, I'm very excited. I have Nathaniel Schooler, who is the founder of this Awareness Day and obviously has a lot of background as to why this is an important day we should be talking about and what you can do yourself to get involved and learn more about it. And I have Nelly Shein, who is an author and also a journalist of 25 years experience. And Nelly's also going to share some of her personal experiences and tell us a little bit about some of the research she's done into this area. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. But yeah, the Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day was founded between Kim Adele Randall and I and a lady called Lisa Ventura, and we kind of collaborated to launch this day, and we've had so much interest in it. It'll grow year on year. It's exciting. So lovely to have you interview us, Treasa.
Lovely to be here. Nelly, would you like to say a few introductory words?
Yes, it's actually Nathaniel that introduced me to this day, but it wasn't unknown to me at all, because I've had clients who I have been coaching and they have suffered from the syndrome. So I have seen it from the inside and seen it from people and what it can do to people when they are hit too hard by this. So when Nathaniel started to talk about this, it felt very natural for me to join in and say, yeah, I know a bit about this because I have a few clients
Very good.
who go through that.
So I guess the starting point here is, what is imposter syndrome? And maybe how would you know if you have some of it or you suffer from it or recognize it in someone else? So Nathaniel, I'll start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it is prevalent in over 70% of people at some point in their lives. That's been proven, so the research says. And it is basically when you think someone's going to find out that you're really useless at something. They're going to find out that despite all of this experience, that you are in fact useless at a particular task or a particular job role, whatever it is that you're actually doing. You basically just feel, even if you've done it for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you may feel completely incompetent, and that actually someone sooner or later is going to find out that you are, in essence, a fraud. And that's basically the whole point. It's they're going to find out you're a fraud, and the world will know, and everything else. And from the research that I've been doing since August 2020, I've been researching it quite deeply, and it seems to me that it comes from childhood. It comes from some sort of belief system that you are still holding on to from when you are a child. And these beliefs come three times during that period, from, I believe, around 7, around, 14, and then up to 22. And then you fix these beliefs in your subconscious mind that in essence are restricting your confidence and actually probably restricting your success and happiness in life. That's what I've gathered from it, until you deal with them, obviously.
Okay, and we'll come to that later on. But Nelly, you said you've had clients who have suffered from this syndrome, and have they experienced the same as what Nathaniel has outlined there, or has it been a different experience?
There are several different parts of this, and I've had clients coming just temporarily because they have just got a new job, and suddenly fear kicks in, and they have never experienced fear before, and suddenly they hardly don't dare to go to work on the first day because they don't know if they will succeed or if they will manage. That usually goes quite fast after 4 or 5 weeks. That is the one thing often. not that it sits there for the rest of your life, but there are also clients that has this more or less for the whole life. And sometimes it's prevalent more and sometimes it dives back. But if there is a new challenge that is coming, then it floats up to the surface again. And you were asking how do you know that you have it? Well, it's a bit subtle. I mean, if you break your arm, I have broken my arm, yes and no. With this syndrome, and syndrome is not really, I wouldn't really give it the name of a syndrome because there isn't really any brain surgeons that has done anything to see if there is anything in the brain that we can locate this. This is a syndrome that is within human beings. And I think I would like to tone it back a bit by saying that all of us, more or less, have experienced it. And some people, they don't feel it at all. And for some people, it will become a lifelong challenge.
So that's really interesting. And you're saying that it's not maybe a syndrome, but it is definitely like a misplaced belief in your ability. So
Absolutely.
you don't feel confident despite evidence to the contrary, right? So what I've seen from Nathaniel, for example, and probably your clients as well, Nelly, is that you've consistently delivered, you've probably over-delivered because you're somewhat driven in the background to tell that voice that was wrong, that internal voice that says, oh, you can't do this, you're not able, you don't have the ability. You're almost driven by that, right, to succeed. But even though next level ladder steps or career steps or next big challenge, next big job, that voice comes back heavy. Is that the way I should interpret it?
I think that you're spot on there. What I have heard is the first time, because I always try to encourage them to go back to the first time when they identify that there is something going on with me. I am too nervous. They realize that it's beyond being a bit shaky. And it actually comes back to school. The first time when they had to go up and make a verbal presentation and had to stand there in front of the class, and suddenly the mates were laughing or doing funny things, really belittling you. That was the starting point. And of course, during school, you need to do a lot of presentation. And then school, your mates knows, oh, that is Jonathan again. Oh my God. And then they start to laugh and do funny things. And that lives with this poor Jonathan, sometimes for the rest of his life, even though he managed to cope and managed to succeed in life. It doesn't really matter, because if he would be triggered again, that could start it.
That's very interesting.
So it's about recognizing that trigger. And I'm going to come back to you now, Nathaniel. When you recognize that trigger, what are the coping mechanisms? What to say? You can do it.
Well, that's a very interesting question. I mean, I think the most important thing is awareness, because you need to be aware of what your subconscious brain is saying to you, right? So, excuse me. So, for example, what I actually started doing, and I still do to this day, if I feel slightly negative in the morning, I will take a piece of paper. Nelly's big into writing as well, into writing notes on paper. And so I'll take a piece of paper and, I'll firstly, think about poor Jonathan and how his life must have been so bad, and how back in those days we used to just get bullied. I mean, that was what it was like, right? Poor guy. But But no, in all seriousness, I will take a piece of paper and I will write down what I think about myself, and certain thoughts will come up that I'm not really comfortable with, and it'll be things like, you know, you're useless, or you know, stuff, just anything that is negative about your particular you as a person. And I take a piece of paper and I'll take this pen here and I'll write it down, and then I will question it, and I'll say, well, you know, thanks for sharing that, but you know what, I don't agree. I think that actually the opposite is true, and that's just a load of rubbish, and I'm going to cross it out and I'm going to write the opposite, because actually what you're telling me isn't true. And I've been doing that now probably for about 8 months. And then about 6 months into that, I probably realized that actually I did have imposter syndrome. I was just doing it because I thought it was a great exercise, because I was aware of these thoughts that were coming up in the morning. And actually I'm feeling so much better about myself. I'm just about to move into a new apartment, really like getting my life on track. And confidence is basically everything, because once your confidence aligns with your ability, and this is what Kim talks about, the confidence spectrum. She's coined that term, the confidence spectrum. And once you align that confidence with your ability, then you truly become, I'm not going to say unstoppable, but you become a force to be reckoned with. Because otherwise you're always either trying to live up to your imposter and turn around and actually take control of that imposter syndrome, or you're overconfident. So you can be overconfident and incompetent, frankly, or you can be overqualified and really good at what you do, and then underconfident. So having that sweet spot in the middle where you're not arrogant, you're not you know, either side of that sweet spot, really controls how your success shows up, how your happiness shows up, in my personal opinion, from my own experience.
Great, thanks for sharing. Really interesting. And Nelly, you touched on journaling there, sort of journaling, that almost debating with your inner child that's quite negative, or inner voice from young ago. Do you believe in that strategy, or do you have other mechanisms you advise?
I think that what I always encourage is to recognize the signs, because it is gradually, once you've had it, and if you have it permanently, there are signs coming back to you. And the first sign is often withdrawal, that you start to withdraw from those who really are your friends, but you seek solitude. Solitude doesn't mean always, of course, that you are going to have the syndrome attacking you, but that is one of the first signals to observe your own behavior. And I always encourage people to have that little group of friends that they can contact and talk to, and like-minded people, almost like AA, that when you feel that this is about happening to you, that you actually see contact, because sometimes there can be a year in between, or 2 years, until it fades out, or sometimes it comes back. But having said what Nathaniel were touching about, is that you need to have routines for this. This will not just manage itself. You have to manage it. And you need to make sure that it's your mind that is in charge. Otherwise, this is going to escalate. So also talk to people in this group. And what you were saying, if there is a stigma, I haven't actually seen any stigma around this, more than people can feel embarrassed, because they are usually high achievers. And high achievers should always stand in the limelight and shine, not have any flaws or anything. but we are only human. So it is important also in that process to be kind to yourself. If you now have a tough day, when you have survived that day, well, then actually pat yourself on the shoulder. I mean, I do that myself. I can then think, well, what the heck, if I haven't had a good day, and then I can think about all the people I've interviewed, Dalai Lama, Nelson Mandela, Pope, and so on and so forth. And I can think to myself, well, you did that well. So bring about those things that you actually succeeded in, and there are heaps
Bring
of them.
back the evidence to counteract
Yes,
the negativity that
good
you're
way
hearing.
of putting it. Absolutely.
That's really good. And another quote I came across recently, and I thought it was very powerful, is failure is not a condition.
No.
So probably for those overachievers, it's one to remember that it is, these things pass, and there are cycles in life, in everything, in career, but also in life, and to recognize where you are. It's this sort of having a good compass. Today I'm feeling low. Well, why is that? Examine it. Today I'm feeling high. This is good. Why? In Ireland, we have a language called Irish, and when we say that we're sad, we say Tá brón orm. It means there is sadness upon me. And I've always reflected that it's very different to the English language, where you say I'm sad. It's like I own the emotion. I am, the whole lot of me is sad. Whereas in Irish, we say this feeling of sadness is upon me. But this feeling of happiness is upon me. And this feeling of confusion is upon me. And to recognize that it's arbitrary and it moves. Could this be a way to deal with imposter syndrome, to recognize it is something that's upon you now, but you can manage, you can take that monkey off your shoulder, as it were, Nathaniel?
I think that was excellent, absolutely excellent way of actually detach yourself from it. It's not anything that you do own and that is linked to you like your legs or head. It is actually something that is there very temporarily. It can be temporarily if you work with it. Or what do you say, Daniel?
I agree completely, and I think also I love what you said about the people that you've interviewed, because I actually use a similar technique. So, for example, sorry, an itchy nose. So, for example, I interviewed like Stanley Tucci, right? And like I won a medal in a couple medals in the British Championships in Tai Chi, right, years ago. So I can kind of draw upon these successes that I have had in my life. And that really makes all the difference. It makes all the difference because it's like, and also another technique that I use is, so say, for example, I have to do something new. What I can do is I can remember what I've stuck at for, say, the last, 25 years. I've been doing something, right? I've been training a martial arts for 25 years, right? So I can draw upon that continued experience, and I can say, well, look, why are you worried about this? You've been doing that for X amount of years, and drawing upon that success to give you the encouragement to take you forwards in the next stage of your learning process. Because look, we all learn new things, right? And 12 years ago, 13 years ago, I knew nothing about technology whatsoever. And I just threw myself into the world of social media, which is how we met, Treasa, and how we met as well, Nelly. And threw myself in that world, and then ended up going through branding and marketing and being a tech analyst. And now I'm into the media side of things, right? So it's like, but if I sat back and was depressed about not achieving things that I thought I wanted, because a lot of the time we're also trying to live up to some sort of expectation of ourselves. and that can also be really bad because we take on other people's ideas of what we should be doing, and I think that also can really affect us with imposter syndrome as well, because actually it throws us off our happy place, which is doing things that we want to do versus what other people think we should do.
I love that. I love that. Really good. And if we can flip it on its head, then are there times when it's good to have imposter syndrome? Are there any positives or benefits from having it?
Do you mind if I kick off with this one, Nelly?
Please, you go ahead.
All right. Well, I do think that it makes you more aware of failure. So you will try harder to perfect something, right? So if you were perhaps doing something that you've never done before, or even that you do on a regular basis, if you can't always see like continual improvement, that can also be an issue as well. So I think certainly it can focus the mind, because it's almost like, well, they're going to find out that I'm useless at this thing, and if I don't work really hard to be good at it, then they're going to find out that I was really useless in the beginning and had no ability. And this for me, that's something that I'm always trying to get better at things, always trying. So those are my thoughts. What do you think?
Thank you for giving me an extra moment to think, because initially I was quick almost to say no, but then I started to think that I have identified something that can be positive, and that is if you have a low period and you are really fighting with this, that you then maybe take your mind off that for a while and go and do something else. That something else may turn out to be the best thing that you've ever done. And that best thing can also turn out to be that you have helped others, or you get new connections, new contacts, because you're pushing yourself into another area. And that's where you can get opportunities. And I always say yes, say why not, and if it is absolutely crazy, but say yes, because you never know what that will take you. So
absolutely.
I think that you can actually get to help other people whilst you're helping yourself.
Excellent. Really like that.
Reminds me of that film with Jim Carrey. Have you seen it? Where he says yes to everything.
Yes, man.
It's crazy. Yeah, and then he borrows this Ducati motorcycle from his friend, and he just ends up like wheeling it everywhere. It's priceless.
There's a parent version of it too, where you have to say yes to your kids every request. It's quite funny. You can imagine
Really?
There's several you don't want to say, like let's have ice cream for breakfast. Yes, let's do that. So yeah, a day saying yes, why not? That could be a coping strategy for many people. And as you said, Nelly, see where it takes you. And as you said, Natalia, draw on your past experience, remember your successes, build up that bank of evidence that tells you, actually, maybe I try this, maybe I like it. If I don't, I learn from it. Either way, it's good. And there's a lot of talk right now around manifestation. And I'm just thinking, when I'm hearing you talk about journaling and switching the negative to the positive, do you think like manifesting and manifestation could be a coping strategy for people suffering from imposter syndrome?
Do you want to go, or do you
Nelly?
want me to go, Nathaniel? Okay, so definitely, I would like to say that you can actually talk your mind into anything, because your mind is willing to go wherever you direct it. So whatever you fill it with, that is where you will end up. So if you then take the steps to actually be in charge of your mind and doing different exercises. That is a way to remind your mind that I'm actually in charge here. Please do not send me any of this rubbish of that I'm not good enough, or send me just the good thing. And you can actually direct your mind. But that is not something that you do overnight. That takes time. It takes it goes a lot quicker to get a driving license, to drive a car, to actually have the manual for your mind. That takes a bit longer.
I love that.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think that it takes a long time to unravel what belief systems we have sitting behind who we should, how we show up in the world, right, and where we're at. And I think taking responsibility and saying sooner or later you've got to take responsibility and say, well, look, I'm in this position because I made this and this decision. It's not a bad thing because I learned all these different experiences that have made me have all of these new skills. But actually now I'm going to take control of where I'm heading, and I'm going to write the book of my life myself. Yeah. And as long as that is aligned with purpose, because I'm big into purpose, as long as it's aligned with one's purpose, I think that we can move beyond anything. But this imposter syndrome thing is very deep. It's deep rooted beliefs that we're dealing with here. And actually making notes every day and crossing them out, it makes such a difference. And sooner or later, you can break through and break beyond it. I personally believe you can get through it mostly, but a lot of people think that it comes back. And I think it can come back from what I've been learning,
So staying with you, Nathaniel, this is the second International Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day today. You have set up a Facebook group, you're doing many podcasts, you're building awareness, you've sent out a press release. What
Almost.
do you hope? Okay.
Well,
you will have.
No, I have.
What do you hope to achieve with today? And how can people help each other? I know through the Facebook. What do you want to encourage people to do today?
Well, I think really just, like Nelly was saying, having people who you can call upon and people who are, Kim and I, we call it like a Thrive Hive. So it's basically like, say, 5 people who you can call upon anytime who are going to basically help you to move beyond whatever it is stopping you from being happy, right? Because that's basically what we want. So the Facebook group has masses of resources in there. We still have, I don't know, maybe 8 hours or so of interviews from last year on that can be found in there. We've basically just got so many resources. There are absolutely masses of them. And I think when it comes to what people should do, they should join the Facebook group for free. We'll pop a link somewhere. And they should also just reach out and say, hey, I'm looking for, I've got a problem. This is how I'm feeling. Can you help me? And then you'll be surprised how many people will actually comment and encourage them to follow a process, right? And I think we're gonna dig out. Kim's got a process that she's documented. We're going to dig that out and put that in there as well, which is, I think it's the 7 steps to overcoming imposter syndrome. Everything's like 7 steps or 11 steps, isn't it, these days? But
Nelly,
so that's about it, really. Yeah.
Very good. So everybody is encouraged to go sign up on the Facebook group. Nelly, do you have any advice from your experience as being a cognitive behavioral psychologist on this day as well?
I think that I'm thinking about when you are having this syndrome, where is your safety? Well, your safety lies with that you know your stuff that you're going to deliver, that you're working with. Because the moment you actually see that you don't know it, it's a fact that you don't know it, that is when you're falling through. So your safety will be to find your facts, know them, and feel sure about that. Share your feelings and, celebrate your successes. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that for instance, 1 year I published 4 books, and none of them were less than 200 pages. And I wrote 4 books. And after, I realized that not once had I been out celebrating because I had a new deadline and I didn't have time to celebrate, for instance. And I think that is something that many people can recognize themselves in, that they are so busy to tick off the next thing. Tick, 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 tick. I mean, these days I've stopped ticking off everything really. But before, it was very, very important. And the thing is, when you stop ticking off everything, then it just comes your way without you doing anything. Opportunity just knocks on the door, and without you having to struggle and all of that. I mean, I don't even have not say that I shouldn't admit that, but I don't even have a web page. Because if I had, I would have even more people coming, and I can't take on anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's good you know that. It's good you know.
So I am living by, going from mouth to mouth, just that people turn up because they heard from somebody. So that's how I do it nowadays.
Nathaniel, however, you have several websites.
Do you know what I did?
Podcasts.
I did have several websites, but I reduced them all down to mainly one, actually, which is the new Legacy Media Hub website, where you're featured with your interview with me. But we do have the International Imposter Syndrome Awareness Day website, which is iisad.org. And that will grow over the coming months and years, because we feel that someone needs to take the reins and really help people to get the help they need for free, because there are a lot of coaches out there that just take money off people, just even if they can't afford it, they'll just take their money, right? So we just thought, well, you know what, we're just going to give this away. And that's what we decided we were going to do. So, we wanted to cover our costs in the beginning, but we realized that it was So we realized that it was a bit of a nightmare. But I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Treasa, and it's been a joy. Nelly, what do you think, Treasa? We're ready to say
I've
goodbye?
learned so much. I'd like to thank both of you for your time today, and remind people that if they want to get involved, to check out on Twitter, LinkedIn, on Facebook, and to join in with the hashtag IISAD 2022 and hashtag not an imposter.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you
so much for having me.